Hare Krishna. I am Mahamsa Das. I joined ISKCON in Toronto. Actually, I'm from Bombay, but at the age of 16, I went to Toronto, and I joined ISKCON over there in 1969, around December. And then around middle of or during the autumn of 1970, Prabhupada called me back to India. So I very happily came to India. And after a couple of months, I met Prabhupada and started my service in Srila Prabhupada's guidance. I was at that time. Later on, Prabhupada initiated me into sannyas, and I was known as Mahamsa Swami, and I was serving in the Hyderabad temple and developing that area. So today I'm here mainly because I want to express what I experienced just before the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada or Srila Prabhupada taking his samadhi. Since this subject is going viral on all kinds of social media networks, I thought I should speak out what I had experienced at that time, which I kept very quiet within myself all these years, but I thought it is best I speak out now. So, besides other times in 1977, when I went to meet Prabhupada in Vrindavan, my last visit before Prabhupada's disappearance was in end of October 1977. That's about 2 weeks before Prabhupada took his samadhi. So during that time, I was in Prabhupada's room along with some senior businessmen, supporters of ISKCON and devoted to Srila Prabhupada, about 4 or 5 of them. I think Badruka was one of them, and I think Sadajivit from Bombay, and maybe another couple which I don't remember the names. But there were about 4 or 5 businessmen, supporters of Prabhupada. And the subject that they were putting up to Prabhupada was they were requesting Prabhupada to please name one or more of his disciples to be his successor for smooth functioning, otherwise there may be problems. And they were discussing this point, giving different views of what happened in the Shankara Math, what happens in the Ramanuja Math, and what happens in many other spiritual organizations where a successor is named to the previous Acharya. At that time, Prabhupada was very weak. He could barely speak. Only in whispers would he speak. But his mind was very alert and was grasping everything. So about maybe 5 or 7 or 8 minutes or 10 minutes, he heard everyone. And then he shook his head slowly and he said that none of them are qualified to take that position. So he said, no one is qualified. Then after a little pause, he said, I have to make the best use of a bad bargain. And then after another little pause, he said, the GBC is there to take care of the day-to-day management of the society. And then after another little pause, he said that after all, this is Lord Chaitanya's movement and he will take care. So this was Prabhupada's comment after hearing all these people, and after a little bit of talking something social, this meeting ended. So it was very clear to me that that Prabhupada mentioned that nobody is qualified to take that position of successing him, to be his successor. And he had to make best use of a bad bargain. The bad bargain is not that he had bad disciples, but the bad bargain is that nobody was qualified. We were all at the most 10 or 11 years in the movement, chanting Hare Krishna. Most of us having very bad sanskara. We didn't know we were living a very debaucherous life, eating all kinds of meats, having sex everywhere, taking drugs. And in 10 years, 11 years, you think you can become a pure devotee? So this was the bad bargain. Not that we were bad disciples, we were totally, every one of my god brothers and sisters were totally surrendered to Prabhupada as much as they could. But the sincerity was 100%. And Prabhupada many times used to shed tears when he spoke about his disciples, how much they sacrificed to serve him and Lord Chaitanya Prabhu. He was ever grateful for them. But on this issue of being a guru, being a Diksha guru, he had to make best use of a bad bargain. That nobody is qualified to take this position of being a Diksha guru. Diksha guru is not a joke. You have to be highly qualified. You have to have, Krishna says, one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. Not just a spiritual master, but a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him, serve him submissively, and then the self-realized soul will impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So the spiritual Diksha's guru is one who has seen Krishna, who is in contact with Krishna, who can absorb the karma of his disciples and transfer that disciple at the lotus feet of Krishna all the way back to Godhead. And it doesn't happen in a few years. 10, 12 years is nothing. Bhaunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyante vasudeva sarvam iti sa mahatma sarulava. After many, many births of being in search of spirituality, jnanvan mam prapadyante, one who understands or sees Krishna in totality, Vasudeva Sarvam iti, not to understand technically, theoretically, that, oh yes, Krishna is Supreme Person, but one who sees Krishna, such a soul is very, very rare. So, my understanding after that meeting was very clear that we are 10, 12 years in the movement. We are not capable of replacing Prabhupada as a Diksha Guru. And so Prabhupada wanted his disciples to continue the initiation system in a humble way of mind, with a humble state of mind. Sit on the floor, bring devotees, let them be initiated in front of Srila Prabhupada, and let Srila Prabhupada take care of them.